Shutterstock. We initiate the autopsy of the global economic structure by acknowledging the primal truth that the financial system is not a mathematical construct but a biological hierarchy disguised as a spreadsheet. The numbers in your bank account are merely the digital quantification of your dominance rank within the species. In the Paleolithic era, resources, meat, shelter, mates, flowed to the organism with the highest capacity for violence, risk, and territorial expansion. Today, the mechanism has not changed, only the interface has evolved. The spear has been replaced by the contract, and physical territory has been replaced by market share. But the biological driver remains the potent behavior-altering steroid hormone known as testosterone. We must understand that money is frozen energy. It is the ability to move matter and people according to your will. Therefore, the accumulation of money is strictly reserved for those biological entities that possess the chemical drive to impose their will upon the environment. This is the biology of the alpha. The low-rank player, the beta, the employee, the cyber, operates on a completely different hormonal axis. He is driven by cortisol, the stress hormone, and serotonin, the safety hormone. He seeks preservation. He seeks to not lose what little he has. The architect, the high-rank player, is driven by testosterone and dopamine. He does not seek to preserve. He seeks to expand. He views the resources of the low-rank players not as property to be respected, but as loose energy waiting to be captured by a stronger gravitational field. Let us analyze the neurochemistry of risk. The fundamental difference between the rich and the poor is not intelligence. It is the biological tolerance for ambiguity and danger. The amygdala is the fear center of the brain. In a low testosterone male, the amygdala is hyperactive. It perceives a market downturn, a difficult negotiation, or a request for a high price as a biological threat equivalent to a predator. When the low T male thinks about investing $50,000 into a business, his brain screams danger. His cortisol spikes. He feels physical nausea. To relieve this pain, he retreats. He keeps the money in a savings account where it dies via inflation because the feeling of safety is more valuable to him than the reality of profit. The high testosterone male has a dampened amygdala response to risk. High levels of testosterone physically suppress the fear signal. When he looks at the same $50,000 risk, he does not feel fear. He feels activation. He feels the dopamine rush of the potential reward. This biological asymmetry is the engine of wealth inequality. The high T male buys when the low T male sells. The high T male enters the market when the blood is in the streets because his biology allows him to override the panic that paralyzes the herd. He is buying the assets of the terrified low-rank players for pennies on the dollar. He is not just smart, he is biologically superior in that specific moment of stress. He is harvesting the cortisol of the masses and converting it into his equity. We must then examine the resource transfer mechanism known as the employment contract. This is the most efficient tool ever invented for siphoning resources from the low rank to the high rank. The low rank male has a biological imperative for security. He needs to know that the food is coming on the 1st and the 15th. He cannot hunt. He needs to be fed. The high rank male exploits this need. He creates a company. He builds a structure. He tells the low rank male, I will take all the risk. I will hunt the mammoth. You just have to carry the meat back to the cave and I will give you a steak. The low rank male agrees. He trades his potential upside for a guaranteed scrap. This is the beta trap. The salary is the fee the alpha pays to rent the beta's life force. The alpha knows that the beta produces $100,000 of value, but because the beta is addicted to safety, he will accept $40,000. The $60,000 difference is the testosterone tax. It is the premium the alpha earns for having the balls to build the structure and take the risk. The entire corporate world is a farm where high T individuals harvest the surplus labor value of low T individuals who are too chemically fearful to stand on their own. Let us dig deeper into the physiognomy of negotiation. Negotiation is not an exchange of logic. It is a collision of frames. It is a dominance hierarchy dispute settled with words instead of fists. When two men enter a room to negotiate a deal, a subconscious assessment occurs within the first 3 seconds. This is the ancient reptilian brain scanning the opponent. It looks at posture, eye contact, vocal tonality, and physical occupation of space. High testosterone changes the physical structure of the face, wider jaw, prominent brow, and the vocal cords, deeper pitch. It creates a presence. When the high T male states his price, he does not ask, he declares. He is comfortable with the social tension. The low T male is terrified of social tension. He has a high need for affiliation. He wants to be liked. He wants to avoid conflict. conflict. When the alpha creates an awkward silence, the beta rushes to fill it, and he fills it by offering concessions. Well, maybe we can do it for less. The alpha does not have to say a word. He simply has to hold the gaze of the predator, and the beta will negotiate against himself to relieve the pressure. The beta is biologically wired to submit to the alpha to avoid physical harm, an evolutionary remnant. In the boardroom, this submission manifests as lowering the price. The alpha literally extracts resources from the beta by utilizing the beta's own conflict avoidance circuitry against him. Shutterstock. We must also discuss the winner effect. This is a documented biological phenomenon. When an animal wins a contest, its testosterone levels spike. This spike increases the density of androgen receptors in the brain, making the animal more confident, more aggressive, and more likely to win the next contest. It is a positive feedback loop. The rich get richer not just because of compound interest, but because of compound confidence. The high T player wins a deal. His T spikes. He walks into the next meeting feeling like a god. He takes a bigger risk. He wins again. He becomes unstoppable. Conversely, the loser effect is real. When you lose or when you submit, your T drops and your cortisol rises. You become risk-averse. You become smaller. The low-ranked player who accepts a bad salary, who creates a budget to save money on coffee, who fears the boss, he is chemically castrating himself. Every time he submits, he reinforces the neural pathways of the slave. He is training his biology to accept scraps. The architect understands that he must manufacture wins early and often to jumpstart this loop. He does not tolerate defeat because defeat changes his chemistry. If he loses a deal, he immediately goes to the gym and crushes a heavy weight, or he goes and closes a smaller deal just to reset the hormonal baseline to victor. He protects his psychobiology like a nuclear reactor. We must confront the myth of fairness. The low-ranked player believes in fairness. He believes that if he works hard, the system will reward him. This is a slave moral. It is a lie told to the masses to keep them working. Nature is not fair. Nature is hierarchical. The lion does not deserve the gazelle because he worked hard. The lion takes the gazelle because he can. The high T player understands that the market is a jungle. He does not ask for what he deserves. He takes what he has the leverage to acquire. He understands that money is just a claim on human time. When you have $10 million, you have a claim on the lives of thousands of low-ranked men who will build your house, cook your food, and drive your car. You are outsourcing your survival to the tribe so you can focus on higher-level conquest. The low-T man views money as stuff, a new car, a new phone. The high-T man views money as agency. He uses money to remove the friction of daily life so he can maintain his high testosterone state. He does not wait in line. Lines are for betas. He does not clean his house. Cleaning is for the tribe. He optimizes his existence for strategic aggression. Let us analyze the scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset through the lens of endocrinology. Scarcity is a cortisol state. It is tunnel vision. When you are starving, or think you are, your brain shuts down the creative centers and focuses entirely on the immediate threat. The low-ranked player obsesses over saving $5. He clips coupons. He drives across town to save on gas. He is expending his limited mental glucose on defense. He is playing not to lose. The high-ranked player operates in an abundant state, dopaminergic. He understands that money is infinite. The Federal Reserve prints it every day. There is no shortage of money. There is only a shortage of men bold enough to collect it. He ignores the small costs. He focuses entirely on offense. He focuses on the asymmetric bet, the one deal that will pay him 1,000 times. He is willing to lose small amounts of resources, money on ads, money on failed prototypes, to find the black swan. The low-T man sees these losses and thinks the alpha is reckless. He says, I could never lose that money. That is why he stays poor. He values the retention of the coin more than the capture of the kingdom. The alpha is willing to burn the ships to take the island. We must also look at the sexual selection of wealth. It is impossible to decouple money from mating. In every species, the female selects the male with the highest status and resource-holding potential. This is not shallowness, it is survival. The high T male is driven by a primal urge to ascend the hierarchy to access the best mates. This libido is not just sexual, it is life force. It is the energy that builds skyscrapers and conquers nations. The low T male has a low libido for life. He is content with mediocrity. He says, I don't need much to be happy. This is a coping mechanism for his biological failure to compete. He opts out of the tournament because he knows he cannot win. The architect enters the tournament with a knife in his teeth. He understands that making money is the modern equivalent of bringing down the bison. It signals to the tribe and to the females that he is competent, dangerous, and vital. When you rob a man of his ability to earn, you are symbolically castrating him. When you earn massive amounts of money, you are signaling supernormal stimulus. You are triggering the ancient circuits of respect and submission in everyone around you. Finally, in this first phase of the biological breakdown, we must address the predatory nature of the high-ticket sale. Why does the high-tea man sell expensive things? Because he only wants to deal with other players who have skin in the game. When you charge a high price, you filter out the low-tea complainers. A man who pays $20,000 for a service is a man who takes action. A man who complains about $20 is a man who will drain your energy. The alpha uses price as a biological filter. He builds a moat around his energy. He refuses to interact with the low-rank mindset because he knows that mindsets are contagious. If you surround yourself with fearful, scarcity-minded, cortisol-soaked people, your own mirror neurons will mimic their state. You will become soft. The architect ruthlessly curates his environment. He surrounds himself with other killers. He builds a pack. In a wolf pack, the collective testosterone of the group allows them to hunt prey 10 times their size. The isolated low-T male is easily picked off. The coordinated high-T pack runs the market. They share information, they share deal flow, they protect each other's backs. This is the mafia principle. It is the biological concentration of power. To take resources from the low-rank players, you simply have to create a system that looks like safety to them, but functions as a funnel for you. You build the bank, they deposit the cash. You build the job, they deposit the time. You build the brand, they deposit the attention. You are the flame, they are the moths. And the moths always fly into the flame because they are programmed to seek the light, even if it consumes them. Shutterstock. Otcrit. We now advance to the kinetic phase of the biological hierarchy. In phase 1, we establish the hormonal baseline of the predator. Now we execute the resource capture. You must understand that in the animal kingdom, the apex predator does not ask for the meat. He creates a situation where the prey has no choice but to surrender it. In the human economy, this is done by manipulating the status signaling circuitry of the low-rank brain. We utilize the concept of the Veblen good. Standard economics says that as price goes up, demand goes down. This is true for commodities, rice, water. But for status goods, as price goes up, demand increases. Why? Because the low-T male and the insecure female are biologically desperate to signal that they are not at the bottom of the hierarchy. They are terrified of being perceived as poor because in nature the poor are left to die. The architect exploits this terror. He creates a product, a watch, a course, a membership, a brand, and he prices it at a level that causes physical pain to pay. He knows that the beta needs to pay this pain to feel validated. When you sell a $5,000 handbag that costs $50 to make, you are not selling leather. You are selling rank. You are selling a temporary relief from the biological anxiety of irrelevance. The architect is the status merchant. He prints a badge, calls it Gucci or Platinum, and trades it for the accumulated life hours of the worker bee. The worker bee feels happy because he thinks he has ascended. The architect is happy because he has captured the resources without expending any labor. This is the ultimate biological arbitrage, trading a symbol for calories. We must then weaponize temporal compression, also known as the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. This strategy was developed by fighter pilot John Boyd to kill enemies in dogfights, but it is the governing dynamic of the market. The high-T brain processes information faster. Testosterone accelerates neural transmission speeds regarding spatial awareness and risk assessment. The low-T brain lags. It seeks consensus. It wants to think about it. It wants to ask the wife. The architect operates inside the decision cycle of the victim. By the time the low-rank player has realized what is happening, the architect has already changed the reality. In a negotiation or a market crash, you must act with violent speed. You create chaos. You change the terms. You introduce new variables. This overloads the cortisol-soaked brain of the opponent. He enters analysis paralysis. When a mammal is overwhelmed and cannot process the threat, it defaults to freezing or submitting. The architect keeps the pressure high, moving the target constant until the opponent simply hands over the resources just to make the confusion stop. You are not just outthinking them, you are outpacing their biological ability to process reality. You are stealing their time and then charging them to give it back. Let us analyze the dopaminergic hijacking of the attention economy. The modern gold rush is not for land, it is for eyeballs. The human brain is addicted to novelty. The ventral striatum craves the new. The low-rank masses are bored. Their lives are safe, sterile, and repetitive. They are starving for spectacle. The high-rank player becomes the content warlord. He creates a persona that is larger than life. He is loud, controversial, aggressive and polarizing. He does not try to be reasonable. Reason is boring. He triggers the fight or flight response in the audience. Half the people hate him, half the people worship him, but everyone watches him. This attention is energy. It is a raw resource that can be converted into currency. The architect understands that he is not in the information business, he is in the stimulation business. He provides the dopamine hit that the wage slave cannot get from his cubicle. By controlling the source of stimulation, you control the behavior of the addict. You slowly drip feed the content, building the parasocial relationship until the brain of the viewer cannot distinguish you from a tribal leader. In the Paleolithic era, you followed the strongest hunter because your survival depended on it. Today, the brain still follows the loudest signal. By dominating the feed, you hack the dominance hierarchy software. The viewer's brain involuntarily categorizes you as alpha simply because you are omnipresent. Once this categorization happens, the compliance instinct kicks in. When you say buy, they buy. Not because the product is good, but because the biological command came from the top of the perceived hierarchy. Shutterstock. We must also discuss the reality distortion field and the biology of belief. The alpha does not accept the consensus reality. Consensus reality is a hallucination created by the average to keep the average safe. The high T male imposes his own schizophrenia upon the world until it becomes the truth. Look at Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, or any cult leader. They do not operate within the bounds of what is possible. They operate within the bounds of what I demand. When you speak with absolute, unshakable conviction, you trigger a hypnotic state in the low-ranked listener. Uncertainty is painful for the beta. He is looking for a father figure, a savior, someone who knows. When you look him in the eye and tell him, this is the way, and you do not blink, and your heart rate does not rise, his mirror neurons detect your certainty. He borrows your belief because he has none of his own. You are outsourcing your confidence to him, and in exchange, he gives you his loyalty and his labor. This is how empires are built. You are the anchor of truth in a sea of relativity. The architect protects his state of delusion at all costs. He does not let doubters into his inner circle. He creates an echo chamber of greatness where his vision is reinforced until it manifests in the physical realm. He understands that reality is fluid and yields to the strongest frame. We must then address the sexual transmutation and the conservation of vital force. The soft man spills his seed for cheap pleasure. He is addicted to pornography, which is the ultimate biological trick, convincing the brain it has reproduced with 100 women while the body sits alone in the dark. This drains the testosterone, the drive, and the aggression. It makes him docile. The architect practices retention. This is not moralism. This is thermodynamics. The energy required to create life is the most potent energy in the universe. If you do not expend it physically, it sublimates into creative aggression. It becomes the drive to conquer markets, to build towers, to destroy competitors. Napoleon Hill called this sexual transmutation. The high-ranked player channels his libido into his legacy. He becomes married to the game. This creates a vibrational intensity that is palpable. When you walk into a room after weeks of retention and focus, you are a charged battery. People feel the static electricity. It makes you magnetic. It draws resources to you. The low-rank male, depleted by cheap dopamine and pixels, has no magnetism. He is inert. He is easily moved by the currents of the market, while the architect is the current. Let us dig deeper into the tribal force multiplier. The alpha never hunts alone. He may be the face, but he is supported by a wolf pack. The architect understands that he must surround himself with other high-T killers, but he must maintain the dominance position within that specific hierarchy. He builds an inner circle of specialists, lawyers, accountants, operators, bodyguards, who are also high status but loyal to his mission. This is the entourage effect. When you move as a unit, you signal formatted power. The low-rank individual is isolated. He fights the world alone. When he sees a coordinated group, his biology recognizes army. He steps aside. The architect uses his resources to buy the loyalty of other dangerous men. He feeds them, he elevates them, but he never lets them forget who the king is. This structure allows the architect to scale his violence, financial or otherwise. He can attack multiple fronts simultaneously. He can sleep while his lieutenants enforce his will. This is the transition from hunter to general. The hunter eats what he kills. The general eats what his army kills. The general captures the surplus value of the entire battalion. Shutterstock or Crete. Finally, we arrive at the dynastic imperative and the epigenetics of wealth. The ultimate biological goal is not just to survive, but to propagate the successful gene. The architect is not building wealth for a Ferrari. He is building a survival bunker for his DNA. He understands that the world is cyclical. Hard Hard times are coming, war is coming, collapse is coming. The resources he captures today are the ammunition his grandchildren will use to survive the winter. He is trying to alter the epigenetics of his bloodline. Studies show that trauma can be passed down via DNA expression, so can triumph. By living as a conqueror, you are literally changing the chemical tags on your genome, predisposing your offspring to be dominant. You are breeding a lineage of kings. The low-rank male breeds a lineage of serfs. He passes down his debt, his anxiety, and his poverty consciousness. The architect views his bank account as the walls of the castle. Inside the walls, his family is safe from the chaotic selection pressures of the outside world. He extracts resources from the chaos to create order for his own. He is ruthless with the outsider, so he can be benevolent to the insider. This is the dual morality of the tribe. There is us and there is food. The architect ensures his line is always the us. So the protocol is clear. You must chemically engineer your own ascension. You must reject the cortisol of the victim and embrace the adrenaline of the victor. You must stop looking at price tags and start looking at power dynamics. Every transaction is a test of will. Every interaction is a measurement of status. Raise your price until it hurts. Speak with the authority of a god. Move with the speed of a predator. Hoard your energy. Build your pack. And look at the world not as a community, but as a hunting ground where the weak are destined to feed the strong. This is not cruelty. This is gravity. It is the law of the jungle, dressed in a suit. The money is just the scorecard of how well you have played your biological role. Now go out there and eat. The feast is waiting, and the table is set for the bold.